So what we do is we look at agency agreement and then we look at the PowerPoint and use the PowerPoint as a checklist. Okay. Agency agreement. So you got an agency agreement. What do you first decide? What do you first find in the agency agreement? What do you pay attention to? Yes. Yes. Can you let me know whether this is exclusive agreement?
It's an exclusive agreement.
According to which provision?
2.1.
Okay, let's look at 2.1. Okay, scope of services. Wait, we went through the agency agreement before. You should have told me earlier. Okay, now we need to look at the license agreement. I'm sorry, license agreement. 이건 편집해 주세요. 지금부터 다시. 네, 지금부터 다시. I gave you trademark license agreement, right? Okay. And we again open up the checklist. Okay. What do you need to check? So you got license agreement. What do you need to check first? As the checklist says, scope of license. What's the scope of license? If you look at recitals, it says licensor has acquired and owns the trademarks and the substantial goodwill and reputation associated therewith in something in South Korea. Licensee desires to obtain a licensor is willing to grant a license in the territory to use the trademarks in identifying, manufacturing, marketing, selling, distributing, advertising the licensed products. Okay. So now you need to look at the trademarks themselves. What IP? The trademarks that are in the attachment, right? How to use IP? Well, identifying, manufacturing these new products, right? Okay, so now you have that idea. The next question is, do we even need a license? As a trademark, what do you need to check? Let's say your client came in with this agreement. And what do you need to ask? Come on. What do you need to ask? If you're a licensee's lawyer and if your client comes to you with this trademark agreement, what do you need to ask?
Is it registered?
Yes. Is it registered where? In the territory. Okay. If it's not registered, then maybe you don't need a license. Okay. But then again, you also have to look at this fair competition law. Because fair competition law supplements trademark law by extending protection to unregistered marks. So under fair competition law, what do you need to be protected if not registration? Well, you need fame. So famous marks are protected. Okay? So let's say Chanel. Let's say the trademark Chanel was not registered in Korea. So you want to start producing Chanel bags. You cannot do that because Chanel is also famous in Korea. People know Chanel as this French bag, perfume, women's amenities maker. Okay? So you should check that. Okay? After that, what do you need to ask? What does the slide say next? Whether it's exclusive. Okay, is this an exclusive license agreement? Yes? No? Anyone? (2.1), right? 2.1 says, licensor grants to licensee and licensee hereby accepts from licensor an exclusive license to use the trademarks in the territory. Okay. And then licensor also has a licensee also. Licensee also will receive a non-exclusive license in 2.1b. What's the difference between 2.1a and 2.1b? Is it just the territory or is it something more? Manufacturing and selling. Okay, so um, (2.1a) I'm sorry. Both the territory and the manufacturing there are differences. So A says exclusive license to use the trademarks in the territory in connection with the identification, advertisement, manufacture, marketing, sale, and distribution of the licensed clothing. And 2.1b says non-exclusive license to use the trademarks in Asian countries. What Asian countries? Those countries approved in writing by licensor in advance. In manufacturing or having manufactured the licensed clothing for the sole purpose of selling the same within the territory. So the idea is that within Korea, licensee will have exclusivity both for manufacturing and selling. And then licensee will have a right, non-exclusive right, to manufacture it somewhere else, probably where the labor cost is cheaper, like in China or India, and then not sell it there, but ship it to Korea so they can be sold in Korea. Okay? So, yes, you are both right. Both the territory and whether both the territory and the type of use is different. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the checklist. All right. What do you need for exclusive agreement? You need a provision controlling licensor's conduct in the territory. Do you see that? Do you see a provision controlling licensor's conduct within the territory? Of course, I mean, licensor, by saying it's granting exclusive license to licensee, licensor cannot directly sell in the territory. That's given. But what if licensor sells to third parties and third parties sell inside the territory, right? Doesn't have any, right? So if you are a licensee's lawyer, you need to ask for one. Okay, let's go back to the checklist. How about a provision that controls licensee outside the territory? Now remember why you need it? You need it to preserve the global sales strategy. You want to appoint other exclusives in the territories, in the areas outside the territory, right? So you need as a licensor, you need a provision controlling licensee's conduct outside the territory. Do you see anything like that?
Yes, in
Section
Section 5.
5. Let's look at Section 5. Licensee may only sell the licensed products in the territory. Okay. Licensee shall not sell the licensed product to a third party who, to the best of knowledge of licensee, has an intention to sell or export the licensed products in or to the areas outside territory. So that's like more detailed phrasing of knowingly. Right? This is the same as licensee shall not sell knowingly outside the territory. Okay? But this is more accurate. This is more formal language. Okay? So maybe this is where you can put in, if you are a licensed lawyer, hey, you need a provision controlling licensee outside the territory. We need a provision controlling licensor's conduct within the territory. Let's make 5.2. Okay? All right. Let's go back to the checklist. Minimum quantity. Do we have a minimum quantity provision? You need it for who? Who needs this? Licensor. Okay. Do we have a provision?
Is it the same as minimum royalty?
What do you think? I already told you. Yes, it's the same as the minimum royalty. It is, it is the same as the minimum royalty in a sense that you make the payment first. Okay? So you cannot. So this is a minimum quantity, this is minimum quantity provision that the party cannot violate, right? Because for distributorship agreement and for agency agreement, the agent or the distributor has to generate those sales, has to buy those products. Distributor has to buy those products up to the minimum purchase quantity from the supplier. The agent has to sell those products up to the minimum quantity amount. When it comes to license agreement, think about it. So this is the amount that this is the amount that licensee has to pay at minimum. Okay. So once that amount is paid, it doesn't matter whether licensee actually generate the sales. So do you have something like that? Section 6. (6.1) In consideration of the rights and sales granted under the agreement, license shall pay to licensor for each contract year the greater of the minimum royalty, set opposite the column of such contract year in Exhibit A. Now read the entirety of 6.1 and tell me anything to be changed from licensee's point of view. Is this safe or it's not safe for the licensee? Any comment?
It depends on whether the licensor is powerful or not.
Okay. It says at the end of the second contract year, they may discuss whether to increase or decrease the fourth year and fifth year minimum royalty. But it says it can be changed only upon written agreement. But then again, as Soyeon just said, if the licensor is powerful, licensor may just force license to agree. If you want to protect your client from that possibility, maybe you want to take out the whole second paragraph. Okay? Good. Okay, let's go back to the... well, why don't you read the whole section 6. 6.2 says, there has to be advance payment of minimum royalty. Then 6.3 says, what does 6.3 mean? Excess percentage royalty. Excess percentage royalty is the running royalty. All right? I told you that I'll discuss the definition of minimum guarantee more in detail. For royalty rate is say $100 per product, and minimum royalty, minimum guarantee is 10,000. Okay, 10,000. And let's say that's for year one. So the first year, licensee has to either generate sales, to such amount that will generate $10,000. So how much does the licensee have to sell in the first year? No, how many units of the product does a licensee have to sell in the first year? $100 or 10, right? Oh no, I'm sorry, 100. Why did you say 10? Yeah, I was confused too. So for each product sold, licensee has to pay $100. That's the royalty. So to meet the minimum guarantee requirement, licensee has to sell 100 products, right? Which from which the royalty will be 10,000, meeting the minimum amount, right? Or licensee has to sell either 100 products or make the payment as if he sold 100 products. That's why I'm saying that the minimum guarantee clause in the license agreement is not something that can be breached, because you can just pay. Licensee can just pay his way out of the contractual obligations. Now 6.3 talks about excess percentage royalty. What if licensee sells more than 100? Right? 102nd, 103rd, 104th. For each product, for each unit sold beyond 100, licensee now has to pay how much? $100 for each product. Right? Then how about, let's say under this agreement, licensee pay the licensor at the top of the year, at the beginning of the year, $10,000, but didn't raise any sales. Okay, didn't raise any sales until like October. Now in October, the licensee started making sales. Sold one product, second product, third unit, fourth unit, fifth, sixth. On those products, does the licensee have to pay any royalty? No, right? Because the royalties for these products, licensee has already paid through the minimum guarantee. Okay? I'm doing this exercise just to show the relationship between the running royalty and the minimum guarantee. Minimum guarantee is called minimum guarantee because it's the minimum guarantee of how much the running royalty will be in the aggregate. Now, because this is a contract Because this is an obligation that licensee can fulfill just by making the payment, what should be the consequences of not making the payment? Making it not exclusive or just terminating the whole thing? Terminating the whole thing. Okay? Because the obligation is just so clear. You just make the payment or not. If you don't pay, the whole contract is gone. I mean, you don't need any separate provision to make sure that happens, because of all provisions, unless it says something else, right? If violated, will result in the whole contract being terminated. Okay. How about territory? What's the territory here? What's the territory? Quick. You see? I mean, it's the time. It's the quicker you can do this, the much more confidence you can inspire in your client. Good. So it does not exclude South Korea. Okay? I mean, it does not. I mean, North Korea. It does not include North Korea. Okay, let's go back to the slide. Efforts level. How much efforts? What level of efforts does the agreement put on licensee? 2.2. Licensee shall diligently and continuously use and exert its best efforts throughout the territory and during the term of this agreement. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? And it says, promote and expand their sales hereunder to the highest levels practicably obtainable. Highest level. Okay? Now, we didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about this as to the license agreement, but here, there is something missing here. This should have gone in there. Scope of exclusivity. I mean, yes, we talked about scope of license, you're right. Talked about scope of license, but that's kind of in a different sense. We just wanted to identify what's being licensed. But when I say scope of exclusivity, I'm talking about negotiation point. The greater the scope is, the better for licensee. The narrower the scope, the licensor. Now here, the trademarks are all in the exhibit, all in the attachment, so we don't know what they are. But look at 2.3. Look at 2.3. Licensee hereby acknowledges that licensed products are one of the lines to be marketed in their territory, and that licensor has licensed and or may license others to market, manufacture, sell, distribute, and or advertise products which belong to other lines than product line in the territory. Okay. Is this good or bad for licensee? Bad, right? And you can, I mean, this is clothing. So the lines between, I mean, the distinctions between these clothing lines, are really murky. So it's very possible that licensors' other lines directly compete with and destroy the sales of the lines that licensee got the license for. And all clothings are potentially competing with one another. Because there is, yes, I'm wearing suits today, but I could have been wearing jeans. And probably you saw me in jeans more than in suits. So even jeans and suits are competing with one another. Right? So you want to make sure as a licensee how much exposure, okay, how vulnerable you are. So you want to, if I was a licensee lawyer, I'll ask to see the entire line of products of licensor and then decide in advance what could come in and what could not come in to Korea. Okay, period. How long? $10.1, right? So this agreement was signed in 2004, so 5 years. It's a 5 years contract. And 10.2 has a renewal provision. Read it carefully and see if anything is wrong. All right. Next. Scope of license. Okay, scope of license again, but this is yet in a different sense. Here I told you that getting part of IP is maybe sometimes greater than getting the entire thing. Because if you license the entire thing, you have to use it as completed. You have to use it as a complete set. Because changing the IP always need a separate license. Here, is license getting the right to create derivatives? You know, something adapted from the originals?
According to 4.1 and 4.2, like licensee can somewhat create derivatives with the licensor's consent.
Good, good. But it's up to licensor's consent. Let's look at 4.2. 4.1. Licensee shall create or develop or cause to be created and developed the designs of the licensed products for each season, taking into consideration the know-how of licensor and the image and reputation that trademarks enjoy in the territory and appropriate positioning the product line among the lines in the territory. Now 4.2 says, licensee shall submit to licensor all the technical sketches, swatch, and samples and color for licensor's approval. Licensee shall manufacture the licensed products for which the designs have been approved. Shall not change or alter the designs without prior written consent. So, it opens up a possibility, but not quite, because it is subject to licensor's approval. So from a licensee's point of view, what will you do? What would you do as a licensee's lawyer? When you see a provision like that, what you can do easily is something like this, which shall not be withheld unreasonably. Okay? Almost for any, whenever it says license's approval, we can just add this. I mean, there is a more involved way of responding to this, which is making your client create all the sketches and images in beforehand, getting the approval, but that's usually impossible. Because designing itself, requires hiring people, requires resources. So when you don't know, when you don't know what you want, and you don't know what you want now, you put an obligation on the licensor to approve when what you want is reasonable. Okay? Let's go back to the slide. Okay, royalty. What's the royalty rate? Do you see it? What's the percentage? 4%. Okay? See in the front. 4% of net sales price. In the case net sales price exceeds $1 billion, 3.5%. Okay? Alright. Now, whenever there is a royalty, you should worry about withholding. Okay. Do you see a provision on the withholding?
6.4.
Good. Royalty payments by licensee shall be made in US dollars by means of blah blah blah. All taxes levied by the Korean government on the royalties to be paid the licensee to licensor shall be borne by licensor and shall be withheld and paid by licensee. So withheld and paid by licensee. This provision is a little bit, shall be borne by licensor, is a little bit confusing because if it's withheld and paid by licensee, that means licensee is not bearing, is not, I mean, this makes it sound like licensee is responsible for the income taxes. So I don't like that, but I think practically the effect of this sentence is that license can take out the withholding and pay the Korean tax authority. So this is good. Again, if you want to avoid now, who wants to avoid? Who will have interest in avoiding the withholding? Licensor, because it's a licensor's money. So if you're a licensed lawyer, you will put something like this. Provided that licensee shall cooperate with a licensor in avoiding the withholding through various means, including or not limited to entering into other necessary agreements involving which may involve third parties. This will preserve the possibility of taking those actions to avoid withholding. Of course, if you want to go to Hungary or Luxembourg, then maybe if you know that now, if you know already, even from the beginning that you will go through that, then you don't even need to sign this agreement, because you want a third party in Hungary, okay, and sign two contracts, okay. Okay, for running royalty, licensor wants these protections: reporting, record keeping, audit. What is it?
6.5.
6.5. Okay, let's see. Okay. Yeah, licensee shall send to licensor annual royalty statement. Okay. And then books and records relating to the licensed products shall be retained for how long?
2 years.
Huh? 2 years or 7 years, right? And shall be available for inspection and audit upon reasonable notice during normal business hours. And then it says licensee shall reimburse to licensor the cost of such audit if there is underpayment of more than 5%. What if there's okay? Okay, from licensee's point of view, is there anything to change? From licensee's point of view,
Like according to this, the licensor can audit the licensee like 5 times a month. So
right? This is unreasonable. Licensor can audit licensee unlimited number of times. Okay, so you want to limit it. So you want to add at the end like up to once a year, something like that. Okay. Now, it says if there's an underpayment, of 5%, licensee shall pay for the audit. What if there's an overpayment? Who should pay? What if there's an overpayment? What if license paid too much royalties as the audit revealed? Who should pay for the cost of the audit? Who cares? I mean, that's a win-win for, that's not good for licensor because now licensor has to return the 5%. Return whatever that was overpaid and pay for the cost of the audit. Right? Licensee didn't do anything. Licensee didn't do anything that hurt the licensor. So there's no reason to make licensee pay for the cost. Okay, gross receipts or net profits. What level of revenue? It says net sales price. What is net sales price? In the definitions, right? Means the gross retail price of the licensed product sold by licensee, less consumption tax, returns, discounts, but without deduction for prompt payment discounts or uncollected accounts. So, what does it mean, uncollected accounts? This means if licensee sold $1 million worth of goods, but got paid only $900,000, okay, the royalty is paid on 1 million or 900,000? 1 million.
1 million.
Yeah. You meant 1,000,000. That's 1 million. Yeah. Because you cannot deduct the money that's not collected. Licensee still has to make the payment on the uncollected amounts. Okay, next, warranty. Okay, who wants warranty? Licensee. So let's look for the warranties. Do we have it?
The third party warranty indemnification.
Okay, where is it?
We have it there.
Oh. Yes, 9.2. 9.3. Licensee shall is this something that's good for licensee?
No.
Something wrong, right?
Because of the phrase, to the extent it considers practicable.
Is that what's wrong with practicable? Which one are you looking at? You're not looking at 9.4?
9.3.
9.3, okay, 9.3.
So the licensor shall, to the extent it considers practicable,
Right,
it gives too much discretion to the licensor.
I agree. licensor shall, to the extent it considers practicable, and it says, take at its own expense appropriate reasonable measures in order to terminate such infringement. Okay. You should change that. You should change that. And then if you are sharp, you can put in something about who will direct the litigation strategy as well. How about 9.4? What is this about? Is this something good for licensee? No, this is bad for licensee. It says licensee shall defend, indemnify, hold licensor harmless, right? Arising out of or in connection with the claims asserted by a third party against licensor. But why would anybody sue licensor for the manufacture of these goods when licensor is not doing this? See, licensor is not. It says it's talking about the possibility of being sued for manufacture and sale of the products, but manufacture and sale is being done by licensee, not by licensor. So it's a remote possibility. It's a very remote possibility.
Even if it bears the trademark of the licensor.
Right, but who is selling it? Licensee is selling it. Why would anybody sue licensor? Trademark is just some piece of paper, some image that's placed on the product. It doesn't have any other legal effect. So whoever is selling, if you're talking about claims arising out of manufacture and sale of the products, it's the licensee that will become responsible. Of course, anybody can file a lawsuit. Some crazy people may sue licensor. But if it's a crazy lawsuit, licensee should spend the money to defend it? No way. Take out all 9.4. Take out the entirety of 9.4. Now, licensor will say something like, hey, what if licensee lowers the reputation? Blah, blah, blah. But for that, there are other protections. If you remember, all the designs, right? Licensor, the clothing design, licensor had the power of approval, right? So you can lift the entire 9.4 maybe, and 9.3 actually, I mean, it's good, but it's not using the standard language for warranty and indemnification. 9.4 is more standard. So just to tease the other side, maybe I'll do something like this. I'll say, I'll just turn 9.4 into something that I want. Licensor shall defend, right? Arising out of claims asserted by licensee in connection with manufactured sale of licensed products, in connection therewith, for infringement any intellectual property right. This will be something that licensees should get. Okay? Oops, sorry. Okay, that's it for today. now we have service agreement and then miscellaneous. So read service agreement. I'll put on EKU, and then I'll put on letter of intent and NDA, and then we'll talk about boilerplates. So we looked at the sample agreement, but I can say we looked at only half of it because the other half is in the boilerplate. Boilerplate is the standard provisions that go into the end of the agreement, like amendment, attorney's fee, especially governing law forum. We didn't look at it at all. So we'll go back to those agreements. We'll go back to the sample agreements and look at those provisions. Probably not in the next class, but class after that. Okay? All right. Thank you.